Have you ever wondered how a lost student serving canopies to power brokers ends up advising leaders on money, meaning, and how to reframe life setbacks into anti-fragile growth and discover their real Porsche in life? I'm Dr. Frank Douglas. In this episode, we explore how chance encounters, hard pivots, and wise choices can transform not just financial wealth, but the wealth of your family, your purpose, and the way you live today. Our guest today is Mr. Bissett. He is the president of Portus Wealth Advisors. He's also the host of Speaking of Startups podcast. He is an advisor to executives and focuses not only on the wealth of the business, but encouraging executives to pay attention to the wealth of the family and the personal objectives that they have for their lives. Mr. Bissett, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Dr. Douglas. It's great to be live with you today.
Yes, I enjoyed our pre-interview, and I really would love for you to start off by telling us the beginning of your journey to the point where you made the pivot, that very important, uh, not meeting, but I would say uh, an unexpected uh, event in your life, coming in
Yes,
contact with at least two very important people who
yes.
had a tremendous impact on your life.
Um, it was interesting. So, as you know, and I think you talked to a lot of people about, life takes us down paths that we're not always ready to go down. And had finished up my second year at NC State and was kind of a lost soul at that point in time. Didn't really know what I was doing, and my grade pretty well reflected it. And so was out of school for a while, and I went up to DC to live with my aunt and uncle. And I went up there because I was from Eastern North Carolina, and she took a job in Eastern North Carolina. He made minimum wage, which was maybe $7, 5.25. I can't remember what it was. But I went up there and started working for a couple different catering companies in the Washington D.C. area, and this was the end of 1999, October of 1999, September, October of 1999, and I got in the unique position where I started catering events with politicians and important end of year holiday parties and everything else. And at that point in time, for all of us that do remember, I kept running into two pretty cool people. One of them was Colin Powell, who was soon to be appointed by the Bush administration to come in and serve a very prominent role. And at that point in time, had carved himself out a very strong name in and of himself. And Alan Greenspan. And so, for whatever reason, the two of them were always kind of in the corner of a room, either talking or holding court with other people. And at that point in time, Alan Greenspan, his book, The Maestro, had just came out. He was still the chair of the Federal Board of Governors, setting interest rate policy, and everybody thought that him, along with Clinton, were the great caretakers of the economy that was created in the 1990s. And so, running into Alan Greenspan and starting to read his Maestro book and realized that economics seemed like a pretty interesting topic. Ended up taking some classes at a local community college, one being economics, realizing that I understood and appreciated it, and went back to NC State, and not as a lost soul, but as somebody with a little bit more purpose. And that allowed me to finish school in a much stronger position than my first 2 years.
This was certainly a pivot for you. Do you want to tell us about the pivot as you pivoted? What did you do in the next phase of your life as you were sort of influenced by Maestro and Mr. Greenspan?
Yeah. So I ended up back as again ended in the NC State economics degree, graduated in the Great Recession, and um, fortunately, prior to graduating, Dr. Douglas, you can probably appreciate this. I found a young lady who um, uh, did a better job of keeping me grounded than I did on my own. And so
Young
we
ladies
moved.
tend to do that for us.
They do, they do. So gosh knows, I wish they would come sooner. But if they would have come sooner, I might not have been attractive at that point in my life, right? Um, so, anyway, so we ran around a little bit. We spent some time in. So she ended up in a career with Black and Decker for a while, and I started off selling life insurance, and then switched over to Morgan Stanley and started doing a little bit more investments, and then from there, ended up with a wealth management firm. And so since 2005, have been more in a wealth management advice role than a product sales like stocks and bonds or life insurance from that perspective. And have been fortunate to have worked with a number of great mentors, and not to talk negatively about my mentors, but to talk more positively about my clients. I've had some really great mentors. I've had even better clients, that, in many regards, as we were talking about earlier, um, we learn. I learn shamelessly. I think I learn more from my clients than they learn from me, um, and so um, that chance encounter with Greenspan led me down a path of economics, which led me down product, which led me down back into insurance, which has led me to what I think is the best job in the world, to be able to interact with people, help them make decisions about their money, share with them stories that we've learned from other important clients, that have done things one way or another, that they can then help shape their families, their direction, and their path financially going forward.
One of the things we talk about as we think of anti-fragility reframing is making sure that we think about a growth outcome as we think about commerce, think about growth. As you reflect on your path to this today, as you look back on it, any episodes that really jump out to you where growth as an outcome was important?
Yeah, no. So our our logo, or the name of our company, is Portus Wealth Advisors. It actually comes out of the Latin word opportunity. And as we were playing around with Portus one day, our marketing person realized that Portus was truly in the word opportunity, right? And then so she just came up with the slogan that opportunities are everywhere, and opportunities are nothing but another name for growth, right? Like we grow out of opportunities. And so we do. I mean, we see it with clients all the time. And I've told this story a lot. So our clients hear this a fair amount, but we have a client who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. And he had been fighting, cancer for a number of years. And in 2015, um, he got the diagnosis that it was probably terminal at that point in time, and so he had two very young grandchildren, and didn't know, but he'd have a third one that came before he passed. And we sat down and was like, "Look, I think you should tell your story and let your kids and your grandkids know the path that you traveled to get to where you are, so it's memorialized for them." And so they live up in Blacksburg, and they've got a beautiful view of the mountains back behind them. So we're sitting in their backyard, and we've got somebody that's come in, and we're videoing, and we're asking about life. And he ends up taking us through the different decades of his life, and about how he was from 0 to 10, and from 10 to 20, and 30 and like how he progressed as an individual and as a professional, and where he met his wife, and where his wife came in, and then where the kids came in, and retirement, and all of these different things. And as I'm sitting here listening to him tell these decade by decade stories, Dr. Douglas, I'm like, gosh, what a awesome life he's lived. And I was like, what was, at the end of the interview, I was like, what was your favorite decade? And that his answer was so quick and so etched in my memory that I'll never forget it. It was this one. It's like, if it's not this one, what am I still living for? And here's a guy that's lived a phenomenal life, and this decade is the decade that has cancer, and that will ultimately, end his life. But he's still living in that moment. He's still living in the set that is in front of him, because you've got to live for tomorrow, not for yesterday. And so that was a huge moment of growth for me. Is like, you have to continue moving forward. You have to continue learning. You have to continue challenging yourself, and then you have to hold those folks around you to the same set of standards, right?
Yeah, what a nice shift in perspective rather than thinking of imminent passing on, dying. You know, he's focusing on living the rest of the life that he's living right now. I also remember the story you told me, and there is a line that you left with me, and I would love for you to share that with the audience, because the line you left with me is, uh, "What's your Porsche?"
Oh yeah, another another great story. So, unfortunately, another client,
Fortunately,
um,
yeah. Mhm.
that was, taken way too soon by cancer. Client of ours that had led a phenomenal career through government, in the Department of Defense, led up the submarine division, and retired at a young age of 62. And really, at that point in time, he found his college sweetheart, and they reconnected. They moved in together, and he was going to retire. They were going to. He had a beautiful 42 or maybe a 46-foot boat, in Annapolis, and the goal was to sail around the world. And very intellectually intelligent person, PhD in engineering from Michigan, undergrad at MIT, and so he retired. And when he retired, he realized that people were willing to pay him a boatload of money because of everything that he knew. And so he retired and started consulting. And as a result, he decided to push out the sailing around the world. And he consulted. And as a consultant, he worked more than he did as a government employee. And he made more than he'd ever made before. He shares the news with us that he's got cancer. And it's the type of cancer at that point in time that it was either a 1 year death sentence or it was a 10-year death sentence. And that they were going to treat it and hope that they could extend it to 10 years. And my partner that I was working with at that point in time, the senior partner, I was just a junior financial planner, told the client, is that, look, now's your chance. You've always talked about buying a Porsche. Um, and you've got this little 1984 300Z, which he loved, right? He loved his 300Z. Um, but you've got this 300Z in the driveway. Just go buy the Porsche. Like, go buy it and enjoy the Porsche while you can. Um, and unfortunately, he didn't. And 6 months later, he had passed away. We got the phone call from his girlfriend. They ended up getting married in March of that year. And so, we tell that story all the time, that, like, as we live through life, like, we have to think about and plan and gear towards the future, because we have no idea what the future holds for us, right? And so we have to be forward thinking and plan for that, because if we don't, then that leads to trouble down the road. But while doing that, we also have to live for today, right? Like, and so I always tell clients, as we're having conversations about, should I do this now or should I wait into the future? Always tell them, what's your Porsche? Is like, what's your moment? What are you giving up today in order to live for tomorrow? And how does that fit?
As we close, let me leave you with one question. What's your Porsche? How might you reframe your choices so that life's pressures make you stronger instead of smaller? That's what it means to live an anti-fragile life. I'm Dr. Frank Douglas. Thanks for listening.